I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is a summary request for council action. We have, we have it?
Where is it?
We do not have it. Yes, we do. We have 1431 budget amendments, 1432 expenditure over $15,000 R&T Fence Company for the Parks Department, 1433 lease agreement for 406 South Broadway Street, 1434 airport sublease, 1435 advance request, general purpose capital to capital improvement fund, 1436 transfer request, MCRC capital fund, 1437 bids 2014 concrete street repair, 1438 bids 2014, I'm sorry, that was 14. Medina Railroad Improvement Project job number 977, 1439 bids 2014 concrete pavement joint ceiling, and 1440 budget amendment 2014 carry forward for the Muni Court. The second item we have is 1431 budget amendments. We have item number 2014-004 reimbursed fiscal year 2011 CHIP funds not spent. Keith?
This is what it says we have to appropriate in order to be able to spend it.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have, this is 1432 expenditure over $15,000 for R&D Fence Company for the Parks Department.
Thank you.
Jensen?
We received some quotes to replace deteriorating fences at two different baseball fields, Reagan 5, which is at our back portion of Reagan Park. There's an outfield fence that our Parks Department moved prior to me being appointed as the director. And the hood also needs replaced. It's deteriorating, and we need to get this project rolling before baseball season starts. Mellert 1, the hood is also in really bad condition. We're going to look to make that a little larger to avoid baseballs going into the church parking lot by Ray Millard.
Just a question.
Yeah, go
A
ahead.
while back, did we ever decide, or identification of fields, did we ever decide to put like a big letter or number on the fields, those fences that you're going to replace? Like a 2 foot by 3 foot letter A or letter 1, so people far away know which field?
You know, I'm going to have to look into that. I know we have signage that directs people where the differing fields are, like in Reagan Park.
Or color, we get a colored fence or something, that's green fence, blue. I mean, that's the only thing when I was going to, I mean,
No,
we started in the parking lot, you're like saying, now, which one are we at?
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that, and if we don't, we can get some signs made for those.
Because I know some other communities I went to, they had the big letter A
Yeah.
that you can see from way across, so you know which visitors coming, they have no idea.
Yeah, I'll check into it.
No.
We did get a quote from Medina Fence, it was for about $31,000, so,
So the Medina Fence is in town,
yeah,
and they were
10,000 more.
10,000 more.
Yeah. We've worked with Elyria Fence in the past. I've talked with R&T Fence Company, and they're a pretty reputable company. They have 2 locations in Cleveland and Akron. They have a good, decent amount of experience in baseball field fences.
So what's the difference? What's the that's a big difference in the price. I mean, that's a third of a difference. It's 30%.
You know what, based on the quotes, the materials are the same, everybody was given the same information. I can't explain why it came out where it is. We have primarily worked with Elyria Fence in the past. I can't speak on what was done prior. I'm not sure how that relationship is with Medina Fence. This project was started before I was appointed. So what I presented you is what I know about the project.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, if it was an in-town company, it would be, more to our benefit than
Yeah, correct.
going to Streetsboro. And that seems like a big difference. That seems like a pretty big difference if you're bidding on, if you're looking at the same thing. It's a big difference. It's a big gap, I mean.
Well, it could be true, I guess. I mean,
Could be.
why, yeah.
Well, it depends on the work though, too. If somebody's got a lot of work, they put it at one rate, and if people are desperate for work, they give you a better price.
The R&T Fence Company is also a supplier, so
So maybe then,
that could be,
sure,
yeah.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Not only the expenditure, but to approve signing the contract, if there's an agreement to accept it.
To approve, including the signing the agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1433, lease agreement for 406 South Broadway. Mr. Huber?
I missed the last council meeting. I was not feeling well, so I received notes from Mayor Canwell with respect to drafting a lease on South Broadway property. This lease agreement that you have is a draft. I sent a copy of it to John Coyne for him to review, as he was privy to the discussion last meeting. And John thought that it was at least within the realm of what we talked about. I emailed this to Mr. Jordan. I have not heard from him. This agreement may change based upon discussion with Western Reserve. I think probably they'll have their lawyer look at it. In looking at this, we have the Western Reserve folks responsible for structural repairs in the building. If I had to make an educated guess, that may be an issue. I'm not sure how that's gonna work out when they look at it. But this is a draft. It's in the computer. We can adjust it, change it, fix it, make it right, and get it done.
Question? Emergency clauses on this? When, he wants to, Bill, you indicated from the last meeting that the next few weeks to move in there.
He's got 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, we were going to take it to council tonight.
Oh, we don't- we
Well, I
don't-
put in the ordinance, pending the
But-
records.
Right, but if we haven't heard back from Mr. Jordan, that may be premature to take it tonight, not give them at least a chance to tell us, A, they're okay, or B,
Right.
they'd like to change something. So if it's okay with council, rather than add that to the agenda at council, maybe we'll hold it and then take it to the first meeting in March.
Yeah, I'm sure they would like to comment on it.
Right, which I think should be the time, if my memory's right. So would still be within the 2 weeks.
Right.
And then if we pass it with the emergency clause, it would take effect immediately. And I don't know, or I'd like to also share with council, we talked initially at the last meeting about the second floor only. And then the more I pondered that, I asked Mr. Huber to include, and that's how it's written today, that first or second floor. And Bill's of the understanding that if something comes along where we then have a renter for the downstairs or use for the downstairs, that he could then move upstairs. But I hated to have him move upstairs when we don't have a renter for the downstairs, and then later move back down. It just seemed like a waste of time and effort. So he was fully aware and understands that at first he can occupy the first floor, but he may have to move upstairs.
So I guess I don't need to vote on this now. We'll wait till the next meeting to vote on it.
And come back through both again.
Yeah,
That's
just
fine.
just get an update and then we'll just take it right
That's
through.
fine.
Okay?
I'll try to call Bill tomorrow and see where in the pipeline this is on their side of the line.
Okay. Next item we have is 1434, an airport sublease from Flight Services of Medina. Mr. Hugh?
Flight Services has a master lease with the city of Medina for the airport property that they manage and operate. As a part of the master lease, if they are going to construct a new hangar, any sublease for that hangar needs to be reviewed by council and approved. This sublease strictly pertains to the new construction that Earl has undertaken. This is pretty thick, and it's really being given to you to start the process. It does not have to be passed today. I had some difficulty getting the exhibits together till the latter part of this afternoon, and asked Kathy to hand out the whole package with the exhibits attached. Essentially, the sublease allows Flight Services to sublease to an LLC, which will be comprised of the individual users of each hangar in the hangar complex of these buildings, which is typical of how these hangar buildings are dealt with in airports at this point. Again, it's in the computer. Earl's looked at it and has approved. I did send this to John to have him take a look at it, and he suggested some changes. We made those changes. So at this point, it's for you to review and comment on if you have any, and we'll go from there.
Questions?
Let's go back to next time.
Yeah, I guess if anybody has questions, we'll vote on this, and next time we can take it to council at that point. If you guys have any questions, let Mr. Huber know in the interim. Item 1435, advance for general purpose capital to water capital improvement. I added the discussion only just because things are coming in the future, but Keith can explain, this is our normal process regarding the payback of the Progress Road Tower.
Right. An advance is simply a loan from one fund to another. What we did was, when the Progress Drive tower went up, it was the amount at the top here, $1,163,936, higher than what we'd originally estimated. And in order to cover that, we did this loan, which is called an advance from the General Purpose Capital Fund over the Water Capital Fund. And we have to roll it every year in order to maintain it as an advance, which preserves the ability to repay it. And over the last 2 years, we've repaid a quarter of it each year, so now we're down to $581. The original intent here and what the request asks to do is to pay off another quarter. So we would repay the entire thing and then refinance the final quarter. There's a couple issues though with water that are making it so maybe we shouldn't do that right now. First, obviously, we've ratcheted up the timing on the backup projects, and we talked about that not too long ago based on what happened. Second, there's a tank coating issue out at Spieth Road. And third, I sent an email to Water and Utilities Committee and Utility Rate Review. We had a pretty light year in terms of revenues in the water fund last year. Water usage, what we purchased from Avon was down about 6%. We bought a little over 1.1 billion gallons in 2013. It had been a little over 1.2 billion gallons in 2012. Even though we bought less water, we paid more money to Avon for it because they've had 3 increases totaling about 15% over the last 18 months. But we brought in less money. So we had a 3% rate increase January 1st of 13, and in spite of that, we brought in $26,000 less in 13 than we brought in 12 because our use was down more than the 3% rate increase was enough to cover. Due to all of those things, I think I agree with Council President Coyne. I think the logical thing to do at this point is just refinance. So the second bullet of this would be amended from 290, 984, 12 to the same amount as the top one, to 581, 968, 24. So we would just refinance the half of this that's still out there and hold for another year and see where we are at the beginning of next year. Pending, maybe we'll have a better year in terms of sales and we get these projects done and we're okay. We'll just kind of see where we are.
Yeah, Mark, and you may have spoken about, there's issues that I've heard about that could be concerning about the cost
Right,
associated.
well, I think before we jump the gun, though, we should discuss it in committee, to put everything in front of us to make sure.
Oh, yeah, we gotta get all the, you're right. And the question here is, I don't know, with knowing that information that you will talk about, I don't think we should make the account have any more stress on it than it's gonna have for this year.
At all, we can't break it down in smaller increments, or?
Well, Mark, to answer that question, if we refinance the entire 581 now, and then we get through all that and say, hey, we're doing okay, we can pay off part of it, we can do that later.
Okay.
It doesn't it still preserves the ability, because we're refinancing it, we're keeping it out there as an advance. We could pay it, I mean, it doesn't have to be at this, this meeting. We could later in the year say, okay, we've got $50,000, we'll put it in, or we've got the 290, we'll do that.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Right,
If we
right.
have something.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you-
All or nothing.
Well, the question is on the connections, the emergency connections and the tanks, I mean, that could approach over $500,000. And I mean, even with that, I don't even know if you can make it, if you
Right.
take nothing out.
All right.
So that's
I
a little
understand. I
concern.
understand.
And
But I'll have, go ahead, I'm sorry. No, I'm just gonna, we'll schedule a water meeting to go over
The project.
the projects that are coming to surface.
And I think in some of our other discussions, maybe in committee meetings or something, 2012 was an extraordinary heavy year for usage, but I can't remember what the reason was.
Well, the dry summer's part of it, but I will say, and that's why we looked at the biggest 20 customers, what was down in 13, about half of the decrease was in those 20 largest customers. And that's, usually the weather doesn't tend to affect your big customers so much. The weather more affects, instead of 20 large customers, it'll affect 2,500
Right.
residential customers that do a little bit more sprinkling. But this decrease, a big chunk of it was industrial. If you looked at those 20, there was like 2 that were flat and 1 that was up, and I think all the rest of them were down. And I don't know if that's, I don't know what it is. I mean, one of the customers we looked at, and actually Nina was gonna talk to the operations manager, their usage is down by like half over 5 or 6 years, and it's an enterprise that's not shrinking. So we're kind of looking at it like, okay, is something wrong with our meter? We're looking at different things just to find out what's going on with this. Because obviously, I mean, like, it's about $140,000 difference when you add up, like I said, we were down 26,000 on revenues, and we expected to be up 108 or so on if you add that together, you're close to 140 in revenue that we didn't see that we should have, and it's because of decreased use. About half of it's in those largest 20 customers, the other half is spread out over the other 8,000 customers. I don't know how much of it is weather-related, because I don't think with those largest 20, obviously with the residences, it would be, but with those largest 20, I don't think that's from sprinkling the lawns. I mean, I think that's from the enterprises using less. Whether it's from conservation measures or just from slowdowns in business, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So
That's on hold.
we'll hold that, and Mark will discuss in the committee, those other outstanding water issues.
So we're gonna hold this at the council meeting tonight, because this was on the agenda tonight too. Or are we gonna refinance or do you wanna refinance the whole thing and then just, if we can pay it later, we will?
Does this have to be?
We can hold it, I guess we can just hold it, there's no reason that we have to take any action currently. I mean, we still have the rest of the year, if Mark decides that, and the costs come in at a different level.
Well,
Committee.
eh,
Do we have an audit?
Issue, we
Fine,
do, that
those-
was what I was just gonna say to John, we need to roll this advance every year. That's why we bring it back every year and redo it. So I guess, I mean, I would be more comfortable with dealing with that if we just change the 290 to 581, so we're gonna roll the whole thing.
Right.
And then if we're able later and we decide to pay some of it off, we always can do that. But for now, we've just rolled the whole thing to preserve the advance. Because what the auditors are saying is if you don't roll it every year, and
Right.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. So we need to vote on that?
Yeah, we
so
can-
we're amending the
motion.
second bullet to 581, and when we get to council tonight, because it's on there, the second advance will need to be 581, 968.24 instead of 290, 984.12.
so move to approve with the change from 290,
984.
984.12 to
581.
581,
968.24.
968.24.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we have a transfer of 1436 for the MCRC Capital Fund.
In the joint operating agreement for the rec center, we each, the school and the city, we each contribute $100,000 annually to our own fund for capital purchases. That way, when needs arise, we have the cash to be able to pay for it. This is our annual contribution to that fund.
Questions?
Do you feel comfortable that that's still enough?
No, not ultimately, and we're gonna talk to the school about that. They're catching up right now on their contribution. When they get to the end of that catch-up period, my recommendation in talking to Mike about it was that we just continue at the increased rate that they're paying for a few years now to catch up. My recommendation would be that we just continue at that rate, where we go to that and they go to that. Because ultimately, at this point, the building's 13 years old, you're starting to get into a situation where it's time for some of these needs, and I don't think $200,000 a year is going to be enough to maintain the capital on that.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1437, bids for 2014 concrete street repair. Patrick?
Thank you. This is our annual project for the individual slab replacements. Last couple of years, we've been having a program totaling $500,000. This year, I was going to request $600,000, bump it up. We just seem to have a lot more areas that need attention in a short amount of time, plus the cost of concrete has gone up in the last couple of years.
Do you have your list prepared yet, or is it still?
I will have it before this gets to council. It should be done by the end of the week. The fellows are out.
Are you still accepting recommendations as well? I mean-
Sure.
Okay.
Suggestions.
Suggestions, yeah.
And proportionate to other wards, Mark, so, yes. Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1438, bids for 2014 Medina Railway Improvement Project. Patrick?
Thank you. You brought up in our last consortium meeting, the rail consortium, we hadn't done a maintenance type project since we finished our, the ERA funds, stimulus fund program a couple of years ago. We do have the funds available. So recommended a project totaling $128,000. Most of this will go into ties, additional ballast. We do have some rail needs replaced and repaired. Miscellaneous type stuff through the whole 3.6 mile corridor.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1439, bids for the 2014 concrete pavement joint sealing. Patrick?
This is a program, I mentioned, it's kind of like changing the oil in your car. This necessary to maintain existing pavements. It extends their life. We have a program every year. In the last couple of years, we're at 75,000 and recommending we stay at that level this year.
Move to approve.
I have a question. I know the difference between the joint sealing and some of the damage that's been caused by this extreme winter. Obviously, that comes, the patching comes from a different account, but when we do the hot patching and stuff, do we seal that too, or?
When our street department does, you mean?
Right.
When they're like fixing chuck holes or?
Right, like hot patches, do we?
They're supposed to, yeah.
When they do hot patches, they do, if I may, with the AC band. But when they're filling potholes just with the UPM, the material,
no, I
they do
understand.
not.
Right,
So
no,
if it's
I
a chuck hole,
understand.
no, but when they do a patch that's gonna last a little longer and you see it squared off, they do use what they refer to as an AC band around the
Okay.
perimeter of the resurface.
And that's not reflected in this cost, though?
No.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1440, budget amendment, correct, 2013 Muni Court carry forward.
We usually exclude these funds from the carry forward because they're, the way they work, they don't have the money to, if they don't spend it, it's because they didn't bring it in. We can't just reappropriate it because they don't have it.
Any questions on that?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, well, now we have to
All-time record.
exec session.
I will make a motion to move into executive session at 6:25 PM for the purposes of
And acquisition
Heiser
negotiations.
Water and Liquid to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or the sale of property at competitive bidding because premature disclosure would give an unfair competitive bargain advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. as well as preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation and other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
We will, before we call roll call, we will probably, we won't, we'll recess from here, we'll reconvene, but we're not taking any action on anything discussed in executive session. Will the clerk please call the roll on executive session?
Colson.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Field.
Yes.
Hilbert.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We are in recess.